Hey everyone, today I wanted to show you how you can use templates in ZipForms and pull that into Command and Docusign. So first off, let me disclose that especially on the listing side of the transaction, you will partially start this in ZipForms and then pull the documents into Docusign Rooms. The reason behind this is that if you use the disclosures that are in ZipForms, the fields will not autofill for your sellers to complete. So I just wanted to give you that quick disclosure that you will be doing partial work in ZipForms and then partial work in Docusign Rooms. So that being said, if you have not set up your ZipForms account, we get this free from NAR here in North Carolina at least. You're going to go to zipformplus.com. Again, that's zipformplus.com. And if you've never set up an account, you're going to want to sign in with your NAR Realtor username and password here. I do have an account, so I'm going to go ahead and sign in. As this opens, you'll see every year you're going to need to renew, but it is included unless you've done previous upgraded account features. So once we're here in our Docusign dashboard, we're going to click on templates first up. So to set up our templates, you'll see I already have a 2020 listing package and a 2020 buyer package, and that's okay. I still want to show you how to create this. So you're going to click new, and which one are you creating? In this instance, we're going to create a new listing template. And I'm going to do test 2020 listing package. This is going to be for residential. So if you wanted to set up a test list or a listing package for residential, then one for vacant land, then if you do one differently for new construction, you can set up as many templates as you would like. I'm just going to use a regular residential listing package for this. And I'm going to click save. And so now you'll see this is blank and it's saying that I do not have any folders yet and that there are no documents to display. So on the right hand side, I'm going to click on all forms and I'm going to go ahead and pull up my right to sell. And so when I pull this in, I'm just going to search for number 101, which is our exclusive right to sell listing agreement. And here it is. I'm going to add that. And then I'm also going to add Form 160, working with real estate agents. And really, those are the only two that you can template out. So at that point, I will go into each of these. I will not know who the seller is for my template, but I do know that my firm is going to be Keller Williams Realty Elite. And you'll see I have that saved, and once you type it once, it's going to give you that as an option. If I wanted to go ahead and check that the effective date is the date this agreement is signed, I could, but if I frequently run into the property currently being listed for sale, I may not want to do that. I won't know the expiration date or any property specific items for that page. Again, property specific items. Now I do know that 6% is going to go into this box for myself at least. That is up to you. And I am a 90-day. That is also up to you how many days you want to go in that. And I know that I cooperate with all for 3% commission. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that in. Continue to scroll down. You may or may not want to check commencement of marketing date. If you do some delayed marketing dates, that might not be something you want on each of your forms. I pretty much know that I'm always going to have these checked. Coming soon, I'm not often going to have that, so I'm not going to select it. My sellers quite often do let me put lock boxes, so I'm going to go ahead and check that for myself. That is personal preference there. I probably wouldn't do many office exclusive, so I don't need to check that. Again, this is all property specific, so I won't have any of this data. I can go ahead and click the seller acknowledges a receipt of a sample copy of an offer to purchase and the professional services disclosure, because I know that I always give those to my sellers. Again, these are seller specific, and if the FHA appraisal was done, none of this will get filled out for my template. I'm going to continue to scroll, and I know I will give them questions and answers on home inspections. I'm going to keep on keeping on here and get down to here. You will see my firm name is already filled in, my firm's license number is right there, my office address for my firm, 280 Charlois Boulevard. So that looks good. Pop my license number in and my name right there, my cell phone number, email, fax number for anybody that we know that still faxes, I guess. And that really covers me on the exclusive right to sell. So I'm good with this. I can go ahead and click my back button. And then again, I'm going to open my working with real estate agents and fill in any pertinent information here. I know this is going to be my name with my license number. I won't know the date until the day that I'm getting it signed. And I know that my firm name is Keller Williams Realty Elite. Scroll on down. I won't know who my buyers and or sellers are. All of my data is still here, which is great. And so now that looks good. I'm going to hit back. So now I have my two templates set up with the information that I'm going to use all of the time. So I'm going to go ahead and back to the list. So now you see I have my Test 2020 listing package set up. So the next thing I'm going to do is click on transactions. And I'm going to create a new transaction. So let's say I'm going to go get a listing. So here's the half that we will do in ZipForms. I'm going to select new listing. I'm going to give it a title. More than likely it will be your street address. It's residential. And I'm going to use that test listing package template and save. So that will open this up. I can fill in any of this specific data here that I would like. That will autofill into my documents. I can also click on parties. And I can select seller 1. And who is this going to be? We'll say, sorry about that. It is Sam Seller. And that looks good. I'm going to save. And I'll do 2 sellers on this one just for our example. I'll pick seller 2 is Sally. Seller. Okay, and save. There we go. Okay, so now that I have connected my template to a transaction in my ZipForms account, I will now come into my opportunities in Command and create a new opportunity. And this is going to be a listing. And client number 1 was Sam. Seller. And client number 2 is Sally. And since they are related contacts, you will see her show up there. And this is test only 123 Main. So we can go ahead and make them active, and we'll say we're staging. I'm fine with that. My half of the commission is 3%. Going to create that opportunity. And now you'll see my opportunities details page pop up, which is great. I'm going to go over to my documents tab, pick my checklist type as residential, and start a transaction in Docusign. It's going to open up my Docusign account. Going to log in here. It will create a room with the same name as that in command, the same name, room name as my opportunity. So now, of course, I always want to come into my details tab and add any pertinent information here. Did not come over. They're still working on mapping, so we'll see a lot more of this functionality happening soon, where we won't have to fill as much in our details tab. I'm going to come down to seller 2, make that Sally seller, her email, great. And now I'm going to fill in any pertinent details for my property. Just going to go ahead and use my own house so that I can get this going. I'll just say today is my listing date, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and give my listing a price. Okay. And so any details that you have for the property, you want to go ahead and add them in. I'm going to click save. Great. I've done my details. So now when I come over to documents, we're going to click add. If you have not previously added ZipForms and connected it in Docusign, you will need to do so. If you need help with that, please let me know, but you should just be able to log in with your ZipForm credentials. So when you try to add from ZipForms, it should let you make that connection there. And I'm going to link this to a transaction. Okay, successfully linked to the transaction I started in ZipForms. I'm going to pull documents from my linked transaction, bring in my exclusive right to sell and my working with real estate agents that were templated, and add those in. And so you will see they have ZFX in the lower right corner. And now I want to add my Docusign forms for my Docusign group for listing. And this is set to required, but since we're using the one from ZipForms, we just won't use this version or this exclusive right to sell. So I'm going to add my residential property, mineral oil and gas rights, any other pertinent documents I need to add. And again, the reason we're adding these from Docusign is because when you add them from ZipForms, the disclosures will not populate for the sellers to complete. And we don't want you to have to drag and drop all those boxes because that would take forever. So now that we have these already filled out from ZipForms, we'll open this up just to double check because we can type in these. Okay, good deal. So here we go, and we are looking at our working with real estate agents. And here's the data saved from ZipForms. Sam seller, Sally seller. We do not need to disclose seller sub-agency in this instance, and we are going to be good with that. And I'll double check that exclusive right to sell. Let that one load, and here we go. And so there we go. Everything I had filled in, of course, you would have taken the time to fill all of this in, which I did not. So that looks great. And now our residential property disclosure and our mineral oil and gas rights, you'll see they are both forms from ZipForms. There's not a whole lot we need to fill in on either of these forms. As the agent, we'll pop these open just to make sure they look good. We've got our address, sellers in there. Everything else is the responsibility of seller one. Just make a note of that. So that looks great. And we'll make the same down here on the mineral oil and gas. We'll just double check to make sure everything is populated. Let that open up. And here we go. Great. Got the address, Sam and Sally. Fantastic. Okay. So now that we are sure that our documents have all of the text filled in that we needed to fill in, we want to get these signatures done. So we are going to select all in this instance. If you didn't need to get all of these signed, then you could just select the ones that you needed to get signed. In this instance, we do need all of them to be signed. Now that I have all of these selected, I'm going to click my Docusign pen. And if you'll notice, that toolbar does not exist unless there is a document for an action to be taken upon checked. So here we go, Docusign pen. This is going to create us an envelope. Remember, everything works very linearly in Docusign and in Command, as well as in ZipForms, which you saw earlier in this video. We always want to rename our envelope so that we know what is in the envelope, because this is listing a property. So once we have an offer on the property or any other actions, price improvements, anything of that nature that we have to handle, we want to make sure that our envelopes are named so that we can go back and get anything that we need. So in this case, we're going to do 123 Main Street, listing documents. That way we'll know what is in there. And so you will see a lot of people have asked about these are not in the right order, and that is because they are put in alphabetical order. So if you want to reorder these at this point in the envelope, we can actually drag our working with real estate agents here to the front, drag over our exclusive right to sell listing agreement next to that working with real estate agents, residential property, mineral oil and gas. I'm still good with that order. And we will be ready to keep going in our envelope. So we've renamed, we've reordered our documents. Now we're going to add recipients to the envelopes. And don't forget, we always want to choose pre-tagged roles if it exists. So if you had uploaded, say, a flat PDF, some disclosures you had downloaded from the MLS, or another document that is just a standard PDF, it has no fields, it has no way to pre-tag. So then you would add from room participants, excuse me, and you would have to drag and drop their initials and signatures. However, since these forms were generated through ZipForms and Docusign forms, we can use pre-tagged roles, which pops open this additional window here. So seller one on the residential property disclosure is Sam. Seller two is Sally, and we do not have a buyer here yet. On the exclusive right to sell listing agreement, I am the listing agent. We have no seller representative here. And on the working with real estate agents, I actually don't need to sign this form because I am not acting as a sub-agent of the seller, but we do need to select buyer one, who is Sam, or seller one, pardon me, and seller two, who is Sally. And so now everybody is selected. There are no more places to select. We're going to add those in. We're going to give those a chance to populate. Now, something you will notice is a little bit different using ZipForms. We will have to do some folks in a different order here. So even though Sam and Sally seller are both seller one and seller two, one of the documents is from Docusign and one of the documents is from ZipForms. So I actually choose to, this one happens to be the working with real estate agents. Since they have to get two separate emails, I actually would prefer for them to get the working with real estate agents first. So there we go. They're getting that first. And then seller one, seller two, and the listing agent will all get the exclusive right to sell listing agreement, and the sellers will get their disclosures second. So now we can move down to the bottom. Please Docusign your listing documents. Make sure that you give this some kind of a name, even if you let them know it's coming. It's just good for them to be able to search in their email. And I'm so excited to list your home. Whatever type of an email you want to put to them here is just fine. I do recommend if you're letting them sign their disclosures via Docusign and you're not going to be on the phone with them during this or doing a Zoom with them, which is another option so that you can explain some things to them with them sharing their screen with you. It is a great idea to have some canned emails and canned directions that you can access easily wherever you may save your notes that explain that seller 1 is going to be responsible for answering all of the questions on the disclosures. Again, seller 1, when you assign them as such, is going to be responsible for answering all of the questions on the disclosures. And you will see in the next step, seller 1 is not required to select any of those boxes. So it is very important, especially if you're working with a really quick-minded person, that you let them know they need to stop and read the disclosures and answer every question, and if they have questions about that, to please contact you. The only thing that it is required for them to do is signatures on those forms, because the computer system does not know what the answers to the questions are. So that being said, I want to go ahead and move forward into the next step, and I'll show you a little bit more of what I'm talking about. Okay, so we are now going to move into the envelope preview. This is your last chance to fix anything that you didn't intend to happen, add anything in that you forgot. I'm going to go ahead and scroll through so that you can see there's our information. So you will see in the upper left corner here that Sam seller is gold, Sally seller is blue, and this again is for the working with real estate agents brochure only. And then Sam seller purple and Sally seller green are for the exclusive right to sell listing agreement, the North Carolina property disclosure, and the mineral oil and gas rights. And then Monica Perry, the agent, is this peachy coral color here. So their tags will reflect that. You'll see here's Sam and Sally, and this is the date that they signed. We also have a nice little preview window over here that shows you who is signing what. So we can actually collapse and expand exclusive right to sell. You will see this is Sam seller, Sally seller, and me, the agent, signing on the exclusive right to sell listing agreement. And if you needed to go to a specific page in this agreement, for example, we do need to take an action on page 10 where we disclose dual agency. Docusign does not know if you have had your conversation with your seller and if your seller has agreed to let you act in the capacity of a dual agent. One would hope that we can accomplish this goal by having this conversation with our sellers, because whether you're with Keller Williams, Winston-Salem, or Greensboro, we are the 2 top selling offices in the entire Triad MLS. So that being said, it is very important that sellers allow us to do dual agencies so that our multiple buyer agents can come and show their property. Again, the system does not know, so you will see that the initials down here at the bottom are filled in solid. That means they are required fields. So if I click on one, for example, for Sally seller, you can see on the right-hand side, Sally will be required to sign this before she can move forward with completing her document. However, these dual agency selections are not solid because they are not required. So hopefully we've already had this conversation and our seller said, yes, absolutely, I want Keller Williams agents to be able to show my property. So we are going to click Sam's initials and make them required. And then we are going to click Sally's initials and make them required. If you did not take this step, I will show you what will happen. So I'm going to go ahead and undo this. And I want to show you a nifty little button called the Recipient Preview. And we are going to show the Recipient Preview for Sam seller for the exclusive right to sell and the disclosures so that you can see what that's all about. We'll let this load. You can click on all of these buttons. This is just showing you what Sam will see when he receives this Docusign envelope from you. So he will be asked to start. At that point, unless he has a Docusign account, he will be asked to select and adopt some initials and signatures, and then he can move forward. So you will see it took him all the way to the bottom of page 1 of the exclusive right to sell for him to sign, because this is a required field, and then it will take him right to the next one. So depending upon the personality type of the seller you're working with, they may just choose to quickly click through, right? And that does happen. I'm one of those people. So you will see we are now on page 9 of 12. Page 10, remember, is where that dual agency needs to be addressed. If I sign page 9 as Sam the seller, it is going to bypass that. I may or may not see that that box is yellow and optional, but I probably would just click to sign this page, and I will totally miss this, which means that compliance will return this folder to you. So that being said, either they're going to completely miss it, or if someone is reading through, they may get confused. They might check more than one. They may check all 3. Any of those, no signatures or all 3 or 2, are going to make this get returned to you in compliance, depending on if your office handles designated agency also. So that being said, we want to make sure, I'm going to go ahead and exit this preview. And again, we can see our preview here, and that was page 10 of the listing agreement. We're going to go ahead and make these required, like I was saying, and we can completely delete the ones that are not applicable. You can do that by clicking delete on your keyboard, or highlighting and clicking delete over here on the right-hand side. All right, so now when I go to the recipient preview and I act on behalf of Sam the seller and click start, I will initial quickly like I was, and when I get to page 9, it is going to stop me here on dual agency so that I can sign that. The other thing I want to show you in this preview is the disclosures. So here we go. Page 1 of the North Carolina Residential Property and Owners Association disclosure statement. Sam needs to sign here at the bottom. Sam is seller 1. Again, he will be responsible for answering all the questions. Seller 2 will have no boxes to check because they are all under Sam. So again, if Sam signs this, it's going to skip him right to the bottom of page 2 to sign his next page. And we don't want Sam to do that. We want Sam to take action here and begin filling in everything that is necessary and checking the boxes. Are there any issues? You know, what are our different parts of our home, and make sure that he fills those in. So again, a great way to do that is through a conversation and backing it up in the email with documented directions on how to fill this in. And again, if you save it, then you can just paste it into the email each time that you're sending off a listing agreement. Okay. So as we move through, you can see when we get here, when we can see everyone's colors again, in that preview, when it's yellow, that is what your actual seller will see when they get the email. You will see Sam and Sally, and everything is purple. So all of these are purple, which means they are assigned to Sam. All right, so at that point, we would send this off for signature, and we have a templated listing agreement and a templated working with real estate agents from ZipForms. This bypasses any of the problems if you fill it in ZipForms that we were having with Docusign not saving some of the fields. I also wanted to show you quickly, I know that we set up templates, but say you needed to add in an additional form and you wanted to use ZipForms, you very well can do so. So we're back under our Documents tab. We're going to click ZipForm, And that was a linked transaction, but we could also use from a ZipForms library and look for what we want to add in. So say we needed to add an additional signatures addendum. We could add that in here. I can open this. This is again a ZFX, a ZipForms file. And you will see that I can fill this in right from here. I don't have to go back to ZipForms to add an additional ZipForms document if I need to add it. I can type in here and, you know, maybe they had extra people that own this. Anything you needed to add there, you could just go ahead and type it in and still move forward again with your signatures. So I hope that this helps you guys out. I know a lot of you are interested in having templates, and just remember this is kind of a hybrid for a listing. Now I might push out a short video for buyer forms as well, but I do recommend setting up a template for your buyer forms that includes, let me pop back over here into ZipForms actually, and I'll go to my templates. So you'll see my 2020 buyer package includes my working with real estate agents, offer to purchase, my buyer agency agreement, and my professional services disclosure. So unlike the issues that we were having with the templates for disclosures for a seller, all of these work. So you can go ahead and have all three of these boxes checked. I know a lot of people forget those. You can fill everything in within ZipForms, or you can fill it in Docusign through ZipForms. Work your way through the form, and you can also see on professional services, you can have it set up to always show your real estate firm here. And if you always order or always have someone else order, or if you always use the same service providers, you could actually have filled those in your templates as well. And with our buyer agency agreement, you wouldn't have the date in here, but you would, this is, if you were looking at the template, you know, I would always want it to be Monica Perry. I would always want it to be Keller Williams Realty Elite. I really don't work anywhere outside of those counties, so under most circumstances, this would work just fine for me. Of course, there are some buyer-specific things, but this is always what I put for my compensation of firm. And as I scroll through, you can see everything is set up for me, so that hopefully will help you guys out. And just remember that Docusign will have overlays, which is what you formerly knew as templates in Dotloop, available December 15th. And of course, I will have some training available for that as well. So I hope you all found this helpful. Again, if you need any help at all, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I am happy to help. And I hope you have a great rest of your day and a wonderful weekend. Take care.